Whew. Here we go. All right. All right. So Tulsi Gabbard, who a couple days ago decided to introduce legislation that Kelly Loeffler introduced in the Senate, which has the express and explicit intent to label transgender people as predators. Now, it's called the Protect Women's Sports Act. Protect women's sports from what? I'll let you answer that question. It's very similar to when neo-Confederates say, oh, we don't care about slavery. No, we care about states' rights. Well, states' rights to what? What are the states' rights that you're so upset about? You want the states' right to do what? You want to protect women from what? From who? So my whole point here is that if you wanted to do this in a way, right, that was not transphobic, you could. Right? You could say, I want to introduce a legislation to provide transgender athletes with scholarships, to provide transgender athletes with specific leagues so that they can compete more fairly, blah, blah, blah. If you want to do that, you can. You can do something that has the exact same effect as this, but not do it in a transphobic way. Now, personally, I disagree regardless of that stuff, right? I disagree. I think it's dumb. But my point here is, right, if you really care about women's sports so much, there's a way to do this without being explicitly transphobic, right? I just laid it out for you, but she doesn't give a fuck. She wants to protect women. And again, I ask you, protect women from what? So she released this 8-minute video here. And I haven't watched the whole thing, but I skimmed through it, and we'll see how much of this I can get through. So put on your seatbelt and brace for impact.
Hey, everybody. I hope that you're all doing well on this beautiful...
Can I just say, I hate this, like, hey, everybody. She starts everything like this. It's like my version of hello, users, except, like, cringy, and I just hate her.
Hey, everybody. I hope that you're all doing well on this beautiful Sunday. I just want to take a moment to talk to you about Title IX and some recent legislation that I introduced. You may know Title IX is a historic provision created in 1972 that was based on the recognition of a biological distinction between men and women, and to make sure that women and girls have equal opportunities, especially as it relates to competitive sports. Now, it was specifically created as a carve-out to existing anti-discrimination laws that not only allowed, but actually required educational institutions who receive federal money to provide separate
I wish I could watch this on 1.5x or even 2.
Biological sex. Recognizing this is the only way.
So I want this is the first dog whistle here. Let me redo this. Now, for those of you that aren't transgender and don't deal with this stuff every day, I'm going to teach you a bunch of things. So just like listen to me here. I want you to listen to this, and I want you to listen for the dog whistle. Again, protect women's sports from what?
Laws that not only allowed, but actually required educational institutions who receive federal money to provide separate programs and opportunities for females based on biological sex.
What is biological sex? What is biological sex? What does that mean? Again, people, right, like this use the term biological and they don't know what that means, right? Biology is the study of life, right? There is no such thing as a biological woman, right? To say that a biological woman is separate from a trans woman is to imply that a trans woman is a robot or a cyborg or some sort of artificial intelligence, right? It's dumb and it's ridiculous, okay? Now also, there aren't two biological binary sexes. That's not true, right? Like, people claim that it's just men and women, nothing else. That's not true. There's intersex people, right? Of all various varieties and stripes, right? Most intersex people have their genitals mutilated at birth. There's a lot of intersex people that are born with different kinds of sexual organs, and doctors operate them literally like a couple days after they are born to conform them to a specific kind of binary, right? So this whole idea that there's only two biological sexes is scientifically untrue, biologically untrue, and just factually untrue. And again, I ask you, protect women from what? Right? I ask you, protect them from what?
Recognizing this is the only way for girls and women to achieve equality in competitive sports. Now, in today's world, decades later, this is something that we may take for granted, but its enactment in 1972 led to a massive generational shift that positively impacted countless girls and women. If you look back to the days before Title IX, there was really no such thing as competitive female sports.
Now, here's the thing. I'm going to give you a hot take. Female sports, dumb as hell. Dumb. Sorry, dumb. Now, I'm going to even give you a hotter take. Sports in general, dumb as hell. I'm telling you, they're dumb as hell, right? I think speedrunning video games is a more impressive feat than doing any form of gymnastics. I'm sorry, that's my opinion. Now, let me back this up with some actual facts here. Do you think that men have a biological advantage compared to women? Why do you think that, right? Is it because of, I don't know, height, arm length, things like that? Why don't you separate these sports based on those actual characteristics instead of based on arbitrary gender markers? Now, I also would like to ask you, do you think it's acceptable for cisgender women to have to and be forced to take medication to lower their natural testosterone levels because they had naturally too much testosterone for women's sports? Is that fair for cisgender women to be banned from women's sports because they have naturally high testosterone levels? Is that fair? Because that's what this is about. This is about trying to discriminate against people based on bizarre and arbitrary characteristics. Now, if you want to have separate sports leagues based on height, okay, that makes more sense. Fine. If you want to have separate sports leagues based on weight, all right, let's do it. If you want to have separate sports leagues based on arm length, sure, why not? If you want to have separate sports leagues based on hair color, I'm sorry, but that's ridiculous. The actual differences that make people not able to compete with one another are the things you should focus on, not what's in between their legs, you dumb motherfucker.
Maybe intramural leagues, but that was about it. Female athletes didn't get any funding from their schools for things like travel if they wanted to compete, and had to sell cookies or wash cars to raise money for their bus tickets. They could only use the basketball court if the boys weren't using it.
I want this to be understood. She is doing this because her thing is protect women and girls. Again, protect women and girls from what? What are you protecting them from? She's making this like historical victim narrative. Oh, the women are so oppressed. They're so oppressed. And that's true. Women have been historically oppressed. But you want to know who else has been historically oppressed? Transgender people. You want to know who else is being actively oppressed? Transgender people, right? So this whole idea of making women seem to be this, oh, they're so oppressed. Oh, they need special protection from the evil trans people. 0.6% of the population. They're going to try to kill all the women. Oh.
After winning 2 gold medals in the 1964 Olympics, a swimmer named Donna De Verona, she could not obtain a college swimming scholarship because for women at that time, there was no such thing. So Title IX changed everything. And Donna went on to become the first president of the Women's Sports Foundation, where she's talked about the fact that since 1972, since Title IX, because of increased funding and institutional opportunities, there's been a 545% increase in the percentage of women playing college sports and a 990% increase in the percentage of women playing high school sports. Before Title IX, 1 in 27 girls played sports, and today, that number is 2 in 5. Title IX made it so that schools could not discriminate between boys and girls, men and women, in both academics and sports. And it created life-changing opportunities for girls and women that never existed before, blazing
This is
the
such
trail
drivel.
for those who we see today are competing at the highest levels. I think it's important to point out that the impact of this also has reaches that go far beyond competitive sports. The statistics show that over 80% of female managers of Fortune 500 companies have a sports background. They show that girls who participate in team sports, they are less likely to drop out of school, less likely to smoke or drink or become a team.
Again, 3 minutes in, this has nothing to do with the actual legislation. This is a history lesson trying to manipulate you and guilt trip you into thinking that women are adorable little birdies that need to be fed at night, right? And they have no agency. They need to be protected. And again, all of this stupid fucking garbage. Protecting them from who?
Mom, and are more likely to be healthier, more empowered, more confident as a result of the opportunities afforded by Title IX. So its value, Title IX's value, cannot and should not be minimized. Now, unfortunately, some states are now misinterpreting Title IX, creating uncertainty, hardship, and lost opportunities for girls and women. It is being undermined by changing rules that allow biological males who identify
Here
as
we
women.
go. Here we go. Here we go. See, it took me 3.5 minutes to get to it. Now, again, the dog whistle before was about 50 seconds, the biological sex. And then she spends 3 extra minutes giving you this history lesson to make you oh, the poor little women and girls. And then she brings it out. Biological males, right? Biological males is hate speech. That is a slur, and it's disgusting, right? There is no such thing as a biological male, motherfucker, right? Again, what is biology? The study of life, not the study of things when they're born, right? Now, here's an example. Look at my hair color. Would you say that this hair color is brown, or is it blonde? Well, I was born with blonde hair. Does that mean I have biologically blonde hair? I'm a biological blonde. That's what that means, right? I'm a biological blonde. I was born with blonde hair. Therefore, I was biologically blonde. There is no such fucking thing as a biological male trans woman. Doesn't exist, all right? It just does not exist. The study of biology is the study of life and living things. Now, again, if you want to protect women's sports, or you want to encourage women, right, to play sports in a way that does not, right, discriminate against transgender people, you have the ability to do so, but you don't. Instead, you are directing hatred and animosity toward an oppressed and historically oppressed minority that is constantly, whenever trans people are in the news, it's not because they're doing great things. It's because they're being shot and killed and murdered almost every single fucking week. And guess what? The investigations never actually lead to anyone because the cops don't give a fuck about investigating the murder or homicide of a drag queen, as they call them, right? They don't give a fuck. Whenever trans people are reported in the news, they're usually dead named, misgendered, right? And also, whenever trans people are in the news, it's also because of politicians like this stupid fucking bitch, this dumb, disgusting nuclear waste of a whore, who are making these legislations, right, based on discriminating against transgender people. Again, protect women from what? These same arguments were used in the 1950s and the 1960s when black people were being introduced to white sports leagues. Oh, but the black people, they've got higher testosterone levels. The black people, they're bigger. They've got more muscle mass. The black people, right? Oh, they're too black and they're too strong. It's not fair. It's not. What about the biologically white people? What about the biologically white people? They would say in the 1950s and 60s, what is the difference between that shit and this shit? Answer me that. The answer is nothing. There is no difference.
More likely to be healthier, more empowered, more confident as a result of the opportunities afforded by Title IX. So its value, Title IX's value, cannot and should not be minimized. Now, unfortunately, some states are now misinterpreting Title IX, creating uncertainty, hardship, and lost opportunities for girls and women. It is being undermined by changing rules that allow biological males who identify as women to compete against biological women in sports.
Again, there is no such thing as a biological male. There is no such thing as a biological female. Now, if you want to make the argument, right, that people that aren't on any hormone medications but are still transgender shouldn't be allowed to play in cross-gender leagues, okay, well, you're going to have to find a way to do that without discriminating against them based on sex or gender. And again, if you want sports leagues based on arm length, if I have short arms, I'm worse at volleyball, right? If I've got short legs, I'm worse at kickball. If I've got, if I'm short, right, I'm worse at basketball. If you want to make leagues for these sports that are based on physical characteristics, again, there's a lot of really muscly women. There's a lot of really scrawny men. That's a thing, right? Do you think a little twink femboy would be more, better off competing against muscle men or against, scrawny little girls? Let's be honest. If we had sports based on physical characteristics, that would fix all of these problems. But they're not interested in that. They're not interested in fixing the problems. They're interested in causing division and hatred among people and casting a wide net of hatred against 0.6% of the population, because that is less work than redoing all of these sports leagues. That is less work than, instead of instituting sports leagues based on physical characteristics, right, which they could do, that costs work. It's like, do you remember when they were trying to switch the Americas to the metric system, and they started building out the highways with meter signs, and then everyone was like, it's going to cost a lot of money to replace all these signs of miles with kilometers, and then they stopped because it would have cost too much money? It's the same thing. To them, the discrimination is more important because it's cheaper, and that's all they care about. Now, I was just talking about pre-transition trans people. Now, post-transition trans people, those, again, that take medicinal supplements like estrogen, spironolactone, the good stuff. Trans women, for example, are weaker on average than most cis women, right? That's just a fact. That's a fact. I'm sorry. I know hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds, if not thousands of trans people. Being that I'm an online tran, a lot of online trans flock to me and we congregate because that's kind of how these things work, right? So I know a lot of these people. Most, if not all of these people, cannot open a pickle jar, myself included, until I started working out a little bit more, okay? So the idea that trans women are beating the shit out of real women or biological women is, on its face, it's ludicrous, all right? Trans people have been allowed to participate in sports for about 20 years, right? And there's only been a handful of trans people that have actually won in these leagues. More often, significant, right? A super duper majority of instances, cisgender women come out above transgender women in these competitions, right? So this is fear-mongering, scaremongering, and using transphobic, bigoted dog whistles such as biological males. There is no coming back from this. There is no defense. There is nothing, okay? I'm going to continue playing this, but I'm thinking I said everything I need to say. She's already said biological males. She's said biological sex, both things that are scientifically and factually untrue, but we'll see what else she's got.
It is being undermined by changing rules that allow biological males who identify as women to compete against biological women in sports. There's an example in Connecticut a few years back. A 15-year-old transgender male-bodied girl beat...
Transgender male-bodied girl is how this disgusting piece of human slime refers to a trans woman. Trans male-bodied girl, right? Disgusting. But why isn't Tulsi Gabbard talking about protecting women who have high natural testosterone levels? Why didn't she write a bill due to the women with high natural testosterone levels being banned from women's sports unless they take hormone suppressors? Huh? Why is that? How come she only cares when it's the trans that are the ones involved in the story? And how come she's only talking about this one example? And why not the, again, myriad of examples of the counter situation where the trans person loses? Why is that? Because she doesn't care. Again, protect women's sports from what? the whole concept of all this shit is making trans people out to be predators and to be insurgents and to be like, evil spies, right? That's what this is all about. If you don't get that by now, chances are you're garbage.
The biological female competition.
Again, the biological female. In order to participate in the biological female competition, if you've got naturally high testosterone levels, you got to take hormone suppressors. You're a biological female with too much testosterone. Again, what is a biological female? A female who is alive. That's the definition of that.
2017 at their state track and field championship and finished first in both the 100-meter and 200-meter dash. Now, the biological female competitors in Connecticut were very frustrated because this male-bodied competitor had a biological and physiological advantage in a sport.
You know what? Isn't it really fucked up how... I'm sorry, I don't know any basketball people. I think like LeBron James, that's a basketball person, right? Isn't it fucked up that guy's way better at basketball than I am? Well, he's got a physical advantage. He's bigger, he's taller than me. Isn't that fucked up? That's fucked up, isn't it? It's almost like all human beings are different. It's almost like all human beings are fucking different, okay? I know a lot of cisgender women that are huge and could beat the shit out of anybody if they ever looked at them wrong. I know a lot of cisgendered men that are short femboy twinks that would never even hope to imagine to beat a cisgender woman in an arm wrestle, let alone in real wrestling. But again, that doesn't matter. All this person wants to do is discriminate against transgender people. It's transgender people that are the problem, no one else. Instead of making things, again, weight classes work pretty decently in boxing, why not take those ideas and apply them to everything else? Because then, that way you couldn't attack trans people. And because she hates trans people, she needs to find an avenue to attack trans people. That's all this is.
Based on physical strength and speed. Now, it's a fact. Biological males hold a physical advantage over biological females when it comes to sports.
Again, what is a biological male? A male who is alive. So if someone is not a male, how can they be a biological male? Again, this whole idea, this whole concept is just a lack of English. They don't know what the word means. Right? This is like the same thing of when right-wing climate deniers go like, hey, global warming, but it just snowed. What? You don't know what words mean. You don't know what science means. You are saying the word biology to sound smart. And I got news for you, bitch. You sound like a dullard.
This is specifically why Title IX's sex-based segregation in sport was created. So I introduced science-based legislation called the Protect Women's Sports Act that clarifies, upholds, and strengthens the original intent of Title IX. It ensures a level playing field for girls and women competing in sports. As I said before, Title IX intentionally created an exception to non-discrimination laws out of that recognition of a biological difference between men and women. Now, Title IX does not reference or deal with transgender individuals. It protects all biological females from having to compete against biological males. Now, let's be honest. There are some people who oppose my bill, the Protect Women's Sports Act, holding Title IX because they don't like Title IX in the first place. And they don't like Title IX because it is based on that recognition of the biological distinction between men and women.
Again, trans people are 0.6% of the population. 0.6% of the fucking population. I literally cannot fathom how you can claim that 0.6% of the population are predators taking over women's leagues all over the country. Like, bitch motherfucker, most schools don't have trans kids. It's bizarre. It's ludicrous and it's disgusting.
But it is a scientifically established fact that there is such a thing as a man and a woman.
The scientifically established fact Again, this person is not citing anything scientific. They're just saying science because it makes them feel smarter. They're not citing any physical characteristics. They're just saying, well, this is the way things are. Again, black people have more testosterone. Does that mean they should have their own sports leagues? That's the same shit people said in the 50s.
It's also common sense. So it is the height of hypocrisy for those who claim to be advocates for women's rights to deny that there is even such a thing as a woman, biologically speaking. To deny the very biological distinction that makes women women and not men. Now,
and again, she's also utilizing straight up biological essentialism here. She is saying there's biological differences between men and women, and therefore men can never be women and women can never be men. That's what she's saying here. If you don't understand how this is transphobic, then either one, you are transphobic and therefore you are garbage and you should leave me the fuck alone, or two, you are a dumb motherfucker who should probably just try to have a conversation with one trans person before you make up your mind about hating them. It's disgusting, it's reprehensible, and anyone, and I mean anyone who defends this is a piece of human garbage.
You may be one of the millions of women, like my mom, who, despite being extremely athletic in high school, she never had that opportunity to play sports. She never had the opportunity to gain those benefits of teamwork and leadership skills and scholarships and all of the things that came with Title IX. You may be one of the millions of women who grew up after Title IX, playing competitive sports, taking advantage of those opportunities that you never would have had if not for Title IX, and now able to live lives that are healthier, richer, happier because...
Yeah, only for cis women though. Trans women, they're not allowed. They're not allowed to be healthier, happier. Again, 40%-ish of trans women, or transgender people in general, have attempted suicide in their lifetimes, myself included. Do they care about that? Does Tulsi Gabbard care about lowering that percentage? Nope. Only she cares about adding to that percentage. She wants that percentage 40%. Come on, we can do 50. Let's do 60, Tulsi Gabbard is thinking in her brain. She doesn't give a fuck about anyone.
Of those opportunities. Or you may be a parent of young girls, like my friends, Congressman Mark Wayne and Christine Mullen, whose 3 young daughters, Lara, Ivy, and Lynette.
Again, using kids. She's using kids as a cudgel to try to endorse anti-trans legislation. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. What about trans kids that kill themselves because their parents say that trans people don't exist? What about gay kids that kill themselves because parents say that gay people don't exist and they excommunicate them? What about them? Oh, well, Tulsi Gabbard says, fuck them. All I care about are my friends' kids.
They love wrestling. They're all competitive wrestlers. They're 10 and 12 years old. They want to make sure that their daughters can continue to pursue the sport that they love on a level playing field.
A level playing field. Again, if it was about a level playing field, you would create these playing fields based on weight, physical characteristics like height, maybe arm length for specific sports, right? Maybe, I don't know, joint fucking, your stability or whatever. There's maybe bone density. You could do it on, maybe hand size. You can do all of this stuff on actual physical characteristics that would be much more of an even playing field. Again, this is trying to say that all women are the same. All men are the same. There's no genetic diversity among men. There's no genetic diversity among women, right? This is what this is trying to tell you. Are you serious? Every woman is the same height? Every woman has the same bone density? Every woman has the same size hands? Every woman has the same size neck? Every woman has the same size shoulders? Are you fucking kidding me? That's what Tulsi Gabbard is trying to sell you. But again, she doesn't give a fuck about truth. She doesn't give a fuck about science. All she cares about is herself.
Or you may be one of those young girls today, like Yasmin, a high school student who wrote me yesterday sharing how she trains hard to play basketball and compete in track and field, but is concerned that if she is put up against a biological male who has that physiological advantage, there's no amount of talent or hard work on her part that'll make a difference. So I want to ask you to join me in standing up to fight for girls like Yasmin, to make sure that they can continue to reap the benefits of Title IX that have empowered so many women and girls who've come before. Join me in urging Congress to pass my Protect Women's Sports Act.
All right, shut the fuck up. I'm done with that. So, again, I debunked almost everything here. If you still somehow have a problem with this, chances are you're a piece of garbage. Chances are I want nothing to do with you. If you think that there is a biological constant, all women are the same, all men are the same, you are a dullard. You are anti-science, you know nothing of which you speak. If you think all trans people are identically advantaged or disadvantaged, you are a dullard. You know nothing. If you are using the term biological male to describe a trans woman, you are not describing a biological male, you are describing a woman, okay? Again, what does biological mean? The study of life, a living thing. A living thing. That's what biological means. Now, if you want to use a term like genetic male, that would be slightly more accurate, but still dumb as hell. But biological male is neither accurate nor intelligent. It's ridiculous, it's ludicrous, it's hateful, and it's disgusting. And if you endorse this stuff, you are garbage. You are slime, and I hope that you struggle in your life, because I hope you at some point have to understand what it's like being an oppressed individual in society. I hope you do. I hope you do, because if you don't, then I guess you're just going to live the rest of your life not caring about anyone besides you. The same argument in the 1950s. Black people, they're stronger, they're bigger. Black people can't play baseball. Look how fast they can run. It's the same shit. Same shit, different decade. Same shit, different decade.